Hi, and welcome to Cloud Next 2020. My name is Brad Meador, G Suite Product Manager. My colleague Gagan and I are going to walk you through ways to better empower secure end-user collaboration, particularly when working from home. We'll briefly go through how Google handled the shift to a primarily work-from-home model, and then we'll dive into ways to secure your G Suite environment to better serve remote users. If you've been attending Next for the last several years, you're aware that we've been highlighting the transformation of the workplace for some time. With the threat of COVID-19 hitting us all on a global scale, this transformation has accelerated. As I present this, shelter-in-place orders remain in effect across much of the world. Your employees need to work from home to keep your business running. The traditional network-based on-premise approach to security is broken when your end users are accessing core apps in the cloud from anywhere on any device. Our primary goal is to ensure that security does not get in the way of end user productivity. And there's two sides to the same coin here. So your end users just want easy access to the tools to do their jobs. But admins want to make sure that they do that in a secure manner so that admins don't lose access to their most valuable corporate assets. At G Suite, we strive to balance both of these. In 2011, to ensure seamless, secure access for our employees, Google developed a new approach for access management, the BeyondCorp Enterprise Security Model. BeyondCorp shifts access controls from the network perimeter to individual users and devices, allowing employees to work more securely from any location. This transforms work into a truly edgeless world. Because Google was using this BeyondCorp model, our nearly overnight transition from a primarily office-based company to a primarily work-from-home company was somewhat painless. We're going to talk about how you can take advantage of the G Suite tools that we use to achieve this for the rest of the presentation. We're going to focus on four key areas: secure collaboration, secure users, secure devices, and secure access and data. So let's dive into collaboration first. This is the place where most people have been diving in. As you're aware, video and chat adoption are through the roof. What distinguishes Google solutions are our enterprise-grade controls. So security, privacy, and reliability are all part of Google's DNA. And at our scale, we can't launch a single feature without first addressing these fundamental requirements. For that reason, when COVID-19 led to an unprecedented increase in video conferencing usage, Google's global infrastructure allowed us to scale Meet to not just match but exceed user demand, and we've continued to scale ever since, all the while maintaining security, privacy, and compliance for our customers. And we're going to dive into each of those in more detail. On the privacy front, Google Cloud is trusted by millions of businesses to protect its customers' user and data privacy. Google Cloud, which offers Meet, does not use customer data for advertising, and it does not sell customer data to third parties. We follow a rigid process for responding to any government requests for customer data, and we disclose the information about the number and type of requests that we receive from governments via the Google Transparency Report. We undergo regular, rigorous security and privacy audits for our cloud services, and that includes Meet. And Meet does not have user attention tracking features or software. Let's talk about data security. So all data in Meet is encrypted in transit by default between the client and Google for video meetings on a web browser, on the Android and iOS apps, and in meeting rooms with Google Meeting Room hardware. And one caveat: if you join a meeting by phone, that audio is carried by the telephone network, and that might not be encrypted. That's up to the telephone network that you're using. All meeting recordings that are stored in Drive are encrypted at rest by default. Meet adheres to IETF security standards for DTLS and SRTP. To keep your meetings safe, we employ a vast array of counter-abuse measures. These include anti-hijacking measures for both web meetings and telephony dial-ins. Some of the counter-abuse features we provide include: meeting codes are 10 characters long with 25 characters in the set, making it hard to brute force guess meeting codes. External participants can join directly only if they are on the calendar invite or they have been invited by in-domain participants from within the Meet session. All other external participants must request to join the meeting, and it has to be accepted by a member of the host organization. We limit the ability of external participants to join the meeting more than 15 minutes in advance, reducing the window in which a brute force attack can be attempted. And phone participants also may not join unless it is within 15 minutes of the scheduled meeting time. We also make it really easy to securely deploy and manage Meet and Chat users and data. For users on Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and the new Edge, we don't require or ask for any plugins or software to be installed. Meet works entirely within the browser. This limits the attack surface for Meet and the need to push out frequent security patches on end-user machines. On mobile, we recommend that you install the Meet app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. We support multiple two-step verification options for Meet and Chat accounts that are both secure and convenient, and these range from hardware and phone-based security keys to also the Google prompt. I'm going to talk more about that a little bit later. Meet users can also enroll their account in Google's Advanced Protection Program. These are our strongest protections against phishing and account hijacking, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as well later. We offer access transparency to our G Suite Enterprise users. This is a feature which logs any Google admin access to Meet recordings stored in Drive, along with the reason why that access happened. And users can use data regions to limit storage of Meet recordings stored in Drive to specific regions, i.e. to US or Europe. Finally, in collaboration, I want to talk about compliance. Our products, including Meet, regularly undergo independent verification of their security, privacy, and compliance controls, achieving certifications, attestations of compliance, or audit reports against standards around the world. Our global list of certifications and attestations can be found at cloud.google.com/security/compliance. With Google Vault, admins can set retention policies for Meet recordings, which is useful to fulfill legal obligations. Now let's talk about user security. You may start to notice a theme as we go through these. So our first goal is to protect our customers by default, meaning that even where our admins take no steps to secure their environments, we have their backs. This is one example where Google's billions of users really help. We see lots of patterns of attacks and remediate before they become a problem for your organization. That said, we highly recommend that our customers implement two-factor authentication. We offer a variety of choices for the second factor, ranging from SMS to phishing-resistant security keys. For your end users who require more extensive security, we've extended our Consumer Advanced Protection Program to G Suite users. This enables a pre-configured set of policies that are available to anyone who wants to implement more stringent security on their account. It's recommended for execs, IT admins, and employees in high-risk industries. And these protections don't just apply to G Suite apps. You can enable single sign-on to achieve the same level of account security for the third-party apps that you use to run your business. Now let's talk to a subject that I like. Let's talk about device security. We are on a mission for the last several years to implement default on-device security, ensuring that every mobile and desktop device that accesses G Suite has some level of protection before the user can access their corporate data. On mobile, a user must have a passcode enabled, and the admin has the ability to wipe the corporate account off the device should it become lost or stolen. It's important to note, we're talking about wiping the corporate account only. They don't have the option to wipe your baby pictures off someone's phone. On desktop, fundamental security ensures that every desktop, regardless of browser type, is automatically logged in our device listing page, and the user can be logged out remotely if needed. All of this is effortless. No end user or admin intervention is required to gain these protections. For environments that require additional protection, we provide a host of features to protect devices. We recently launched Enhanced Desktop Security for Windows 10, which allows end users to log into Windows with G Suite credentials. This ensures devices are updated and secure. It means that we can use some of the same controls we talked about for secure users before you even log into a Windows device to secure the device. And it allows you to perform tasks like wipe device from the cloud. On mobile, We provide the ability to distribute company-owned devices, create a curated list of work apps, and provide complete separation of work and personal data via Android Enterprise and iOS data exfiltration features. And then finally, a lot of your end users are likely working from home, and they may not have the best connection. So they may have a need to work offline with the files that normally they would have access to online. Drive File Stream is a great way to do this. So if you're not familiar with Drive File Stream, it's the world's largest hard drive. It allows you to map a hard drive back directly to your Mac or Windows device. It gives your users offline access to the files that they have stored in the cloud without losing control of that data. So we give you the ability to restrict device access and wipe Drive File Stream cache from a device that has been lost or stolen. With that, I will pass it to my colleague Gagan to talk about secure access and data.
Thank you, Brad. Hello, everyone. My name is Gagan Arora, and I'm a product manager in Google Cloud. Once you have secured your users and devices, you should really start to look into enabling granular controls to protect access to resources in your organization based on context of the request and the content of the resource. As Brad mentioned, the transition to work from home for Google was relatively painless. And this is primarily because of the BeyondCorp security model that Google has implemented over the number of years. So in this section, I'm going to walk you through the BeyondCorp architecture that Google deploys and how it ties together the secure user, secure devices, and secure access in one single architecture. And next, I'm going to walk you through some of the common use cases that you can solve using context-aware access and DLP controls that G Suite offers. Let's start by looking at the BeyondCorp architecture first. Over many years, organizations have built layers and layers of security to protect their network. And that worked great when employees are actually coming to office and connecting to corporate network from there. As folks have started to work from home, we need a new security perimeter. And with BeyondCorp, your users, your devices, and the resources become the new security perimeter. Now, let's look at each of these components of BeyondCorp architecture in a little bit more detail. As Brad mentioned, the first step is to secure the users and devices with things like single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, device management tools, and so on. Once we have established the user trust and the device trust, next we want to dynamically control access to resources in the organization based on what we know about the user, the device, and the context they're coming in. Things like what IP are they connecting from, what country are they coming from. And this is what we call context-aware access. And it's truly the foundation of BeyondCorp security model that we have. It allows you to define your security posture once and be able to apply it to not only G Suite, but also GCP resources like GCP APIs, VMs, and web applications as well. Now, let's look at some of the most common use cases where you can use context-aware access to enable work from home securely. One of the major things that became clear with this current situation is that many employees will need to access corporate data through their personal devices. Now, how do we ensure that these personal devices have the right security posture that you are comfortable with as an admin to allow access to the sensitive corporate resources that you have? With device management, you can quickly identify what devices people are actually using to access your G Suite data, including the personal laptops that they may be using. Once you know what devices are accessing G Suite, you can start to push a lightweight Chrome plugin called Endpoint Verification onto the user's devices. And this helps us collect a little bit more information about the devices, things like whether this device has a password on, whether the disk is encrypted, and what OS version is being used here. And once we know a little bit more about the device, we can start to enforce policies against it. For company-owned and company-managed devices, you can push this plugin through Chrome Enterprise Management or some other tools. And for the personal devices that people may be using, we have a quick way to identify those users and devices and send them a note on how to download and install Endpoint Verification if they're looking to access G Suite resources from their personal laptop. Once we know a little bit more about the devices, the next thing is that you should start to apply granular policies on what the users can access based on the context they're in. So, for example, you can only allow access to G Suite data and sign into SAML applications like Salesforce if your contractor workforce who need to access these applications is coming from a secure device. What secure device means is up to you to define. You can define more stringent rules, or you can be a little bit more relaxed and say, I only care about the OS version. It should be patched. It must have password and encryption. One thing to note here is that for context-free access, the context is continuously checked when users are trying to access G Suite applications. So no matter whether the session was valid before you apply the context-free access policies, the session will be disconnected if the user fails to meet the context that you have set for them. But for SAML applications, we only check for context during the sign-in process. Now, let's look at a quick demo on how you can apply context-free access policies to solve some of the use cases, work-from-home use cases that you may have in your organization.
Let's take a look at a quick demo on how you can solve some of these common use cases using context-free access. If you're looking to enforce IP-based policy or a country-based policy, you can head directly into enforcing context-free access. However, with work from home and folks needing to access G Suite on personal devices without VPN, you may want to look at deploying device-based context-free access. In order to deploy that, you would first push endpoint verification, a lightweight Chrome plugin using Chrome Enterprise Management or other means. Next, you can go to Admin Console, Device Management page, and click on Endpoints. This will show all the desktop devices that your users have been using to access G Suite. Here you can also easily filter out the devices that do not have endpoint verification installed. And you can quickly select all these and send an email to these users that they are required to have endpoint verification installed even on their personal devices if they want to use them to access G Suite. You can give them instructions on how to download endpoint verification and how to install it using that email. Now, once you have endpoint verification installed on all the users' devices that they want to use to access G Suite, you can go ahead and start deploying context-free access policies. So if you go to your security page inside context-free access, the first thing you need to do is to define what the security posture means for your company. So here I have defined two different postures. One is high trust, which requires users to be coming from a company-owned device, and a medium trust that requires a secure device. It could be a personal device. And for this demo purposes, I have said that the device must have a password on, it must be encrypted, and the Mac OS must be at least 10.15.0. Next, you select which users are required to have secure device policy. And here for our use case, I want to ensure that all contractors who are accessing Google Drive and a SAML application, say Atlassian Cloud, must come from a secure device. You can apply context-free access policy to the entire organization or a particular organization unit, but because our contractors are split across multiple organization units, I'm going to use a group-based policy. And here, I'm going to select the contractors group. And for the contractors group, I have applied medium trust required for when they access Atlassian Cloud and when they access Google Drive and Docs. We can also quickly search for a user called Dan, who is a member of contractors group, on what policies are applied on Dan. So here, as you could see, the policies are medium trust required on Atlassian Cloud and Google Drive, and Dan belongs to the group contractors. We can also quickly look at what is the device status of Dan that he is using to access G Suite. So in this case, Dan is using MacBook Pro. He has endpoint verification installed, password is on, disk is encrypted, but his OS version is 10.14.6, which is lower than 10.15 that I as an admin require. So let's see how Dan's access will be affected when he tries to access Google Drive and Atlassian Cloud. Now Dan is logged into his G Suite dashboard, and when Dan tries to access Atlassian Cloud, he gets an error set by you saying that Dan must come from a secure device when he's trying to access Google Drive or Atlassian Cloud. Dan also tries to access Google Drive, and he gets a similar message that we have set for Dan. But since we did not apply the policy to Gmail, Dan should continue to be able to access his Gmail as before. So this is a quick way for enabling context-aware access in your organization to securely allow users to work from home without requiring VPN.
So once you have secured access, next you should look into what sensitive data you may have in your organization and apply controls to prevent exfiltration. With DLP for Drive, you can easily look at what type of sensitive data you have in your organization, the files containing social security number, credit card number, and which specific files have that sensitive data in them. And this is all presented to you in an easy to understand insights report that you can look at and understand the security posture of your organization. We also provide automatic data classification for your files in Drive. So you may define different tiers of labels. So for example, your company data may be labeled as confidential, your customer data may be labeled as top secret, and we will scan the files in the Drive and apply appropriate labels to them automatically. We also provide protection against the IRM controls that users may have. So for example, if a file is shared with one of your colleagues or somebody outside the organization, you can apply controls unless they have edit rights to the files. You can say these folks cannot download the file, they cannot print the file, and they cannot even copy and paste. So as you can see with context-aware access and DLP controls, you can apply very granular policies to secure access to your resources. Next question that we usually get is, how do we get started? We have a lot of other useful Cloud Next sessions available on YouTube that you might be interested in. And we highly encourage you to watch them as well to ensure that you have the full spectrum of the security features and offerings that Google offers. In addition, we also offer a series of pre-recorded use case-based demos on YouTube that you can refer to if you'd like to see exact steps for the setup of some of the use cases we described in this presentation. Thank you again for tuning in, and we look forward to your feedback.